Ben Shapiro leaned back in his chair, eyebrows arched, a smirk tugging at his lips. "Congresswoman, your logic makes less sense than a Marxist math book," he quipped. The studio chuckled nervously. Jasmine Crockett sat poised, unfazed. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in calculation. "Ben," she said calmly, "your arrogance is only matched by your selective comprehension." A pause. "Let's start where you got it all wrong." The crowd stilled. Ben opened his mouth, but Jasmine raised her hand. "No interruptions. I listened. Now it's your turn." Her voice was firm, her presence commanding. "You mocked my stance on institutional bias, claiming stats over story. But let's talk stats. Redlining wasn't just a narrative. It was federal policy. Black families were systemically blocked from homeownership, from generational wealth." Ben's grin faded just slightly as Jasmine leaned in. "You claim facts don't care about feelings?" she continued. "But your facts are filtered through bias. You cherry-pick history like it's a buffet. You love capitalism, right? Yet you ignore that it was built off the backs of unpaid labor for centuries." Ben tried to jump in, but Jasmine's tone sharpened. "Don't interrupt. This is the part where education happens." The audience shifted, sensing the power shift on stage. Ben adjusted his notes, deflecting with sarcasm. "So, everything's racism?" he asked mockingly. Jasmine didn't blink. "Not everything. Just the parts that built the foundation of this country, and you're still benefiting." She raised a folder of documents. "Here's HUD data from 2023. Minority families still face double the rejection rates for home loans, even with equal income." The crowd gasped. Ben's smirk cracked. "You see, Ben," she said, voice like silk over steel, "your argument only works in a vacuum. But America isn't a vacuum. It's a living system with legacy codes running deep. When I speak about injustice, I'm not asking for pity. I'm demanding equity." She leaned forward, her tone like a thunderclap wrapped in logic. "You don't get to laugh off lived experience when you've never had to live through that struggle." Ben shifted in his chair. "Correlation doesn't mean causation," he muttered. Jasmine nodded. "Exactly. That's why I brought controlled studies. Princeton, Harvard, not Twitter threads." She slid papers across the table. "Same resumes, white names versus black names. Guess who got more callbacks?" Ben glanced down. The data was airtight, no room to spin, no meme to save him. The audience leaned in as Jasmine continued. "And let's talk about crime," she said. "You love bringing that up. But what you ignore is cause, poverty, disenfranchisement, over-policing. You think it's moral decay. I think it's manufactured desperation." Ben frowned. "Are you justifying crime?" Jasmine's voice stayed steady. "I'm explaining it. That's what adults do. We diagnose before we judge." The moderator's mouth hung open. A hush swept the studio. Ben stammered. "But—" Jasmine wasn't done. "You use fast-talking tricks, but I use truth. You bury context under clever phrasing. I raise it back to the surface." Her tone was rising, not in volume but in moral clarity. "America loves bootstrap stories, but first it yanks the boots off entire communities." A woman in the front row nodded, tears brimming. The crowd wasn't laughing anymore. They were listening. "Your logic," Jasmine said, pointing calmly, "is built on omission. You leave out history, structure, and consequence. You think it makes your argument cleaner. It doesn't. It makes it dishonest." Ben blinked. The fire in his rebuttal was flickering. "I debate for truth," he muttered. "Then face it," she replied. "Because if truth is your goal, stop hiding behind technicalities. Start acknowledging what's real." Ben inhaled, trying to regain his edge. "I never owned slaves," he declared. Jasmine smiled faintly. "You didn't. But you've inherited a system that profited from them. Refusing to acknowledge that makes you complicit in ignorance." The moderator leaned forward. "Congresswoman Crockett, Do you believe conservatives can be redeemed? Jasmine nodded. If they're willing to do more listening and less laughing. The crowd broke into applause. Ben looked stunned. Jasmine turned to him again. You can disagree with me, Ben, but don't ever again insult my intelligence with condescension disguised as wit. Her voice thundered across the stage. I came here to speak truth. You came to entertain your base. Guess what? My truth just turned your punchline into an education. The audience rose to its feet. Ben tried to pivot. Let's talk economics, he said. Jasmine smiled. Let's. She pulled up charts. Trickle-down theory has failed. Reaganomics widened the gap. We've got decades of data, yet you keep defending policies that harm the working class while enriching the top 1%. Ben narrowed his eyes. That's oversimplified. Jasmine didn't blink. No, that's accountability, and you hate the taste. Jasmine gestured to the crowd. You ever been evicted, Ben? Watched your mom cry over utility bills? Ben said nothing. No, you haven't, but millions have, and your policies ignore them while your words insult them. You say you're logical, then apply that logic equally, or admit it's just a costume you wear when it's convenient. The silence that followed was more telling than any applause. You, see, Ben, she said, voice smooth and forceful, what you call facts are often just fragments. You leave out the full picture, because it's easier to mock than to understand. Ben sat frozen, his debating rhythm shattered. Jasmine continued, and when a woman of color dares to challenge you with intellect, you laugh. But not this time. This time that laugh cost you the whole argument. The moderator tried to interject, but Jasmine wasn't finished. This isn't just about left and right. It's about power and how it's used. You wield yours through mockery. I wield mine through truth. And truth doesn't need applause. It echoes long after the cameras shut off. Ben looked away, lips pursed. Jasmine stood taller than ever, commanding the entire room with unshakable poise. Go viral, Ben, she said coolly. Clip this, meme it, twist it, but understand, people are tired of being laughed at while they're suffering. You're good with words. I'm good with justice. Her eyes didn't leave his. And justice, unlike your jokes, doesn't fade when the internet scrolls on. The crowd erupted again, not with laughter, but with conviction. Ben's smirk was now a silence. Jasmine continued, You may win debates with fans. I win hearts with facts. And hearts are harder to fool. She turned to the moderator. Are we done here? The moderator nodded slowly. Ben tried one last jab. You're emotional. Jasmine spun. I'm passionate. There's a difference. And that difference just dismantled your entire playbook on live television. A wave of cheers followed. You don't intimidate me, Ben, she said. You inspire me to speak louder, fight harder, and never let people like you mock pain into silence again. She gathered her papers and rose. Ben stayed seated, eyes scanning his notes as if they'd save him now. Jasmine glanced at him once more. Next time, come with more than a smirk. Then she walked off stage as the crowd roared behind her. Ben remained still. The moderator cleared his throat awkwardly. We, appreciate both sides. But the tone had changed. The crowd had seen through the veil. One woman shouted, Say her name! Another added, Crockett crushed it! Ben attempted to laugh again, but it landed hollow. Jasmine wasn't just a guest anymore. She was the moment, and her truth had taken center stage. In the hours that followed, clips of the exchange flooded social media. Ben Shapiro destroyed live, trended within minutes. Conservatives scrambled to spin it. Progressives posted with pride, but no one could deny the shift. This wasn't just a takedown, it was a reckoning. Jasmine had turned a mockery into a masterclass. Ben had underestimated her, and the nation had just witnessed it. On her way out, a young intern stopped Jasmine. You gave us hope today. She smiled softly. No, I gave you proof. That night, News anchors debated what happened. But the truth didn't need commentary. It had already spoken, loud, clear, and unapologetic. Jasmine Crockett had done more than respond. She had redefined the entire conversation and walked out standing taller than ever. Ben's followers claimed bias. She was too emotional. She ganged up. But the footage told a different story. Calm, composed, factual, unshaken. The internet may forget in a week, but for those who watched, something changed. A line was drawn. A mocker silenced. A movement heard. Crockett's voice echoed far beyond the studio walls. And it wasn't done yet. Late-night hosts replayed the clips. Analysts weighed in. Memes exploded. But amidst the chaos, the message remained. Underestimation is a dangerous mistake. Ben had laughed at Jasmine Crockett's logic. She didn't just respond, she dismantled the stage he stood on, piece by piece, with truth as her sword, and every word she spoke left a scar of clarity. That debate would be remembered not for Ben's mockery, but for Jasmine's resolve. She hadn't come for applause, but she earned it. She hadn't come to destroy, only to reveal. And in revealing the flaws in his foundation, she gave voice to millions who were tired of being statistics in someone else's punchline. Her logic wasn't just intact, it was revolutionary, and so the clip lives on, passed from hand to hand, screen to screen. The day Crockett schooled Shapiro. A lesson in power, precision, and unshakable grace. She didn't yell. She didn't beg. She simply stood her ground and let the truth speak louder than sarcasm. And that truth, once spoken, can never be laughed away again.